go to court. You might have to in
Yes.
the long run. Boy, if I had to go to court, I want Gil there because
Well, that's what I'm saying.
We've gone over so many things that you've done in the past that most lawyers would have just given up, and you took it to the next step and won your case.
Yeah, I try. And that's really what we do. We keep our focus on what the client's best interests are. And, sometimes it's not, I can make more money taking it to trial. I had one case that was just fantastic. I loved it. I couldn't wait to take it to trial. We wound up litigating for about 3.5 years. We weren't even set for trial yet. We weren't even close to it. And all of a sudden, the bank's attorney sends me an email. Hey, we'd like to settle with your client. Now, I have to contact my client at that point. Ethically, when somebody makes an offer, I got to pass it on to my client. Even if I know my client's going to reject it, I have to pass it on. So call my client, he comes in for a meeting, we start talking about it, so they're offering you X amount of dollars cash for keys, an extended sale date, 120 days, and they're going to waive any deficiency against you. And he's like, what do you think? And I said, I'll tell you, if they're making this offer now when we're not set for trial, we got a winner of a case. And I said, my advice, don't take the offer, let's take this puppy to trial, let's win it. So look, I appreciate it. You've kept me in this house for like 3.5 years without having to pay for anything.
Which is unbelievable.
He was thrilled. He's a CPA.
Yes.
Like, boy, was he happy. He said, but honestly, my wife and I are ready to move. We're ready to put this behind us. We're ready to go away. I said, you're crazy. Like, we could go. I can get you your attorney's fees back that you paid me, or at least most of them. We can get this. We can win this case. And he's like, I understand. He's like, but really, I'm done. I'm ready to move on.
He declined?
He declined. And
wow.
hey, it was in his best interest.
Right.
What am I going to do? If it's in his best interest and he makes the decision, like, he's my client. I've got to look out for him first and foremost.
Of course.
And, it's a shame because it always seems like the clients I want to negotiate the best deals on, those sometimes get to be the hardest. The ones that I'm going, I got a great case and look, it's going to happen. But ultimately, we're looking at our client's best interest, not our own.
So explain to everybody about winning, because you're saying winning. Do they win? Do they keep the rights to own their home? I mean, what exactly is winning?
Okay,
define
so
that.
We go to trial, and now it's actually, a week ago Thursday, 2 weeks ago Thursday, I had a knockdown, drag-out trial, Palm Beach County, and I will tell you, it was a huge loan. I walked in there, I'll tell you the truth. My client's like, look, we got no choice but to fight. We're working on a loan modification. He did not want to take a consent judgment. Worst comes to worst, he's got equity in the house. It's a big house. He's like, worst comes to worst, I'm going to sell it. We'll be able to push it out a little bit. We'll get a sale down. I might walk out with a little equity. The bank's offering me bupkis. Literally use the word bupkis. Said, okay, let's take it to trial. I walked in. I reviewed all my evidence, and I'm going into court. Again, I got maybe a 20, 30% chance on this one. It was not looking great, but I said, look, we're going to trial. I'm prepped. Let's go. And let me tell you, I launched into it at trial, and it was most of my trials will last on average 2 to 2.5 hours. 3.5 hours into this trial, and I'm just pummeling the bank. Politely. I made good friends with I've been good friends with the opposing attorney, but I'm keeping their evidence out. I'm getting rulings in my favor. They completely switched some of the tactics they were going to be using at trial. And it wound up what I think, I still don't have an order on
against
it.
them?
It wound up being, I think, a fatal flaw. What was, I'll tell you what was amazing was I threw this attorney so far off his game that they don't send their newbie attorneys out against me anymore. They don't. they send.
I wonder why.
The 18 comes in.
Yeah, no, they do. I'm serious. They send their best litigators against me, and I take it as a compliment.
Yes.
So I take it now. This guy's halfway through his closing argument, so the judge has already announced evidence is closed. Halfway through it, and all of a sudden he realizes halfway through his closing argument that he never had his witness tell the judge how much money my client owed, what the interest was, what the bank put forward, all the things you need to enter judgment in foreclosure.
So that's a huge omission.
He asks the judge, he says, will you let me reopen the case to put it in? She goes, no.
Wow.
She goes, I already heard all the evidence I'm going to hear. Whatever decision I make, I'm going to make based on the evidence that was presented at trial.
Wow.
I mean, unbelievable. I noticed. I noticed before we went to closing arguments. Obviously, I didn't point it out.
Why would you?
Well, tactically, I had to make a decision. At the end of his case, I can go in, I can ask for an involuntary dismissal. So that's one of the ways we win. But If I'm asking for an involuntary dismissal before I've made any of my presentation, and I point out the fact that he hasn't presented any evidence to the court to support the figures in his proposed judgment, well, he's going to ask the judge if he can reopen his case. At that point, she's probably going to let him. So I didn't make a motion.
But when staying in your home?
Okay, so I made a motion for directed verdict, which is kind of the same thing, but now it's at the close of evidence. So really what this ultimately comes down to, what does winning mean in the context of a foreclosure trial? It means I get the case dismissed. It means the bank is not going to get to go forward with its case at this point. They have to start all over again. Now, the problem, we've talked about this on the show, that the banks run up against is something called the statute of limitations. Because somebody owes you money, let's take it out of the context of foreclosure, just because you have the right to bring a lawsuit against somebody does not mean you have that right forever. If you stop paying your Diners Club card in 1978, I think that's the last time they issued a Diners Club card, right? If you stop paying your Diners Club card in 1978, they can't wait until now to bring a case against you. They have a 5-year statute of limitations. Well, mortgage foreclosure has a 5-year statute of limitations.
Did they move it to 6?
Nope.
Oh, it's
5-year
5.
statute of limitations.
Okay.
They have 5 years to bring the suit. The question is when the 5 years starts. With Diners Club, that's easy. Stop paying your credit card. They've got, at that point, they start. Well, with a mortgage, you have a payment due every month. So there are a lot of courts in Florida that were coming in and saying, well, the 5 years starts when the 5 years never really starts, because every month you have a new obligation. So the bank never has a statute of limitations until we get to 5 years past the end of the mortgage. The third DCA, which is the District Court of Appeals, which covers Miami-Dade and Monroe counties, which has typically not been very friendly to homeowners in foreclosure, turned around and said, wait, all these cases have been decided completely incorrectly. And really the statute of limitations on a mortgage foreclosure starts to run when the bank declares in its complaint, that document that they serve you with, that the process server comes and hands you, that complaint says right in there, the plaintiff now accelerates the balance and is calling loan, is demanding everything is due and payable. That point starts the statute of limitations. Unless you get the case dismissed with prejudice, which is another story entirely. If you get the case dismissed without prejudice, that means that's never been adjudicated. There's never been a ruling on that. Therefore, they can't bring another case if more than 5 years have passed from that date. Well, that sounds like a long time, but I can tell you, last summer, it was 2014, I had several trials on 2008 and 2009 cases that I won. Now, the banks are waiting because this is going up to the Florida Supreme Court, and we're waiting to hear back what the Supreme Court has to say on it, because there's now what we call conflict between districts. The 2nd, 5th, and I think 3rd district courts have said the opposite, have said, no, it never really runs. So now we're waiting for the Supreme Court to decide. But let's say you're in that wonderful situation, and this case comes out how I think it's going to.
Do you get to keep your house and owe no money?
Not quite. Almost.
That would be a win.
Right, that would definitely be a win.
I know.
What would happen at that point is the bank still has a lien on your property. Your mortgage is a lien on your property.
Yes.
So if you want to sell the house, you got to pay the mortgage off. But if you get past that 5 years after the end of the mortgage, you have a 30-year mortgage you took out in 2000. Once we get to 2035, the bank has lost its right to bring that case.
Oh.
And so, at that point, yes, you would own it free and clear. But in between that point, you don't have to make a payment on the mortgage. They can never foreclose on you, and you're living in the property.
You're living rent free, and then you get your house,
or renting, whatever you're doing with the property. You just can't convert out your equity. That's the one downfall to something like that.
Hey, number here is 888-565-1470. 888-565-1470. If you have a question for Gil and you want some good free advice, give us a call now. 888-565-1470. We were talking about, we're getting ready to go to break in just a minute. We were talking about things are going to get really tough now. You're going to have an attorney if you're going through foreclosure. We were talking about how a lot of these notes are going to be bought out, and these new companies are not giving you a lot of leeway.
No, they're not. And there's one in particular that I've been dealing with is Dick O'Neill Inc., a company based in Texas. I
Love the
believe.
name. We're talking about foreclosure and serving people.
And what that company has been doing is going and buying up deficiency judgments. A deficiency judgment is the difference between what you owe and what the property is worth on the day of a foreclosure sale, or typically
Or short sale.
or short sale.
Right.
In limited circumstances, most of the time when we do a short sale, most banks offer a full waiver of deficiency with a short sale.
That's if you have an attorney. Don't do it yourself.
Don't do it yourself. We've gone through that.
I've
one
learned the
before.
hard way.
Absolutely. But what they're doing is they're buying up these deficiency judgments, and what they're able to do, they don't have to file a new lawsuit. They keep the same lawsuit open. They come back to the court, and they had specific time limits they had to do it within. And he bought them all up right before the time period ran up, and he filed motions for for deficiency judgments. I can't even count how many cases he did it in. And now you have people who thought this was over and done with, that now have $100,000 judgments against them, $200,000 judgments against them. You know, if you look at some of the condos, especially in South Florida, that were worth maybe $50,000 when the when the whole mortgage universe imploded on itself, they got judgments against them for $250,000. That's a $200,000 deficiency.
Wow.
And there are different strategies we can use to deal with these debt buyers. Chief among them, and one of the best one that works out for a lot of my clients, is to file for bankruptcy. What we encourage people to do is, if you've got that deficiency, use it to your advantage. If, let's say, we went to trial and we lost, or you just didn't do anything, the bank just got a judgment against you. Well, we can file your bankruptcy now. We don't have to wait to do it. Don't wait till you get back on your feet and you got a new job and you've built up some assets to file a bankruptcy and then have to put some of those assets into the bankruptcy. You're much better off to do it at a more beneficial time. And that's a really good time to talk to an attorney early, because we can file bankruptcy in such a way that it will not only wipe out that deficiency, but if you're looking to gain a little extra time in the property, we can keep you in that house a little bit longer. You can deal with it ahead of time.
Really? Okay.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We file. I had one case where the bank's attorney he's like, look, my client's not giving me a waiver of deficiency. If you want the waiver, you need to give me a really good reason of why we should give your client a waiver of deficiency. And it's kind of, we're friendly. It certainly wasn't being antagonistic. He was like, look, help me help you, or I need your help. Help me help. Yeah, help me help you.
Help you. That's from the movie, the Tom Cruise movie.
Exactly. So I turned to him, I said, look, tell your client that if you don't give them the waiver of deficiency, we'll go to trial. We lose, fine. Because a day before your foreclosure sale is scheduled, guess what? We're going to file for bankruptcy. And now that's going to throw you off another couple months, and you're still not going to be able to get your deficiency. And he said, that's a really good reason. And he calls me back like half an hour later. He's like, okay, you got your waiver. Which is, in that case, what my client wanted. They really wanted to avoid filing for bankruptcy.
Isn't there a statute of limitations for the deficiencies as well?
There is, and it's a complicated, because what had happened with these lenders were just sitting on it, and the Florida legislator, and I don't often compliment the Florida legislator, but Florida legislature said, well, we got to give people some sense of finality. And so this was, I think, back in 2013. They said any case before 2013, the statute, the motion for a deficiency judgment has to be filed, I think it was by July 1st, 2014. Any other case happening after this law is passed, you have 1 year from the entry of the judgment to make your motion for a deficiency. So they did set strict limits on it, and I've seen cases dismissed because those limits were missed. There's a few that I saw.
So they changed the law after 2014.
In 2013, they changed the law.
Okay.
They changed the law in 2013 to say, look, you've got
I have a
till
special
July,
interest in that.
yeah, you've got until July 1st, 2014 to make your motion for deficiency judgment. After this law is passed, you now only have a year after your judgment. That you can't just hold it open indefinitely and then come after for deficiency whenever you please. If you have this problem, if you're looking at it, give us a call at the office, 954-596-0669. If you can't come in during the day for an appointment, or you can't, or if you live out of state, it's no problem. We can set up a telephone consultation, do everything over the internet if you need. We have no problem emailing you retainers, credit card forms. We're happy to work with you as you need to be worked. That's 954-596-0669. Come check us out on the web. We just revamped our website, www.bilulaw.com. That's BILULAW.com. or you can follow me on Twitter at gbilu. At gbilu. Not only do I post very interesting things about foreclosure, but I got some funny stuff up there that I like to retweet as well. Usually from George Takei and Depressed Darth, but that's a whole nother story.
Hey, we got to go to break right now, and when we come back, we have more with Gil Bilu of Bilu and Bilu. We'll be right back.
I'm just blowing up.
At the law firm of Bilu and Bilu, we can help you if you are facing foreclosure. Don't lose your home to the foreclosures by the bank or mortgage company. Call the law offices of Bilu and Bilu at 954-596-0669. You have rights and we can help you exercise them. At Bilu and Bilu, your first consultation is always free. If your home is underwater or you are behind on your mortgage and you're confused about what to do, we can help. Call our office today, 954-596-0669 or 1-877-BILU-LAW. That's 1-877-BILU-LAW. At Bilu and Bilu, our lawyers have more than 20 years combined experience in real estate law. The banks have lawyers, and so should you. The lawyers at Bilu and Bilu can help you modify your loan or apply for a short sale while they defend your case in court. Contact the lawyers at Bilu and Bilu today so you can sleep easy tonight. Your home is your castle. Trust the professionals at Bilu and Bilu to defend it for you. The law office of Bilu and Bilu handles foreclosure defense in Broward and Palm Beach and all 67 Florida counties. Call the law offices of Bilu and Bilu today at 954-596-0669 or visit us on the web at bilulaw.com. That's BILULAW.com.
And we're back. We're here with our buddy, Gil Bilu of Bilu and Bilu. Folks, let me tell you something. I've heard people say that they were going through foreclosure, and the attorney they had was working on their foreclosure and a murder case, and they were also doing an employment
case.
A murder. I mean, they did everything.
Right.
Now, your practice is geared towards not bankruptcy law, foreclosure, real estate. That would probably most.
We really focus a lot on real estate. We do, look, everybody handles a little business litigation. Everybody, that knows how to work around a trial, do a little business litigation, and I'm happy to take on all sorts of things. I've found that, people want to know that you're really good at what you do.
Yes.
And so what we do is we handle a lot of real estate law. And not just talking about foreclosure. I mean, foreclosure has been the hot thing for a couple of years, but I'll tell you, I've been doing real estate law since 2003. I know real estate. I know it inside out,
you
backwards.
do that, yeah.
Do closings.
Landlord tenant, you do that also?
Landlord tenant, we do our fair share. Absolutely. Landlord tenant's a very, very complicated field of law. There's a lot of little loopholes and tricks that you have to know in the statutes. You have to know how to avoid them, or you have to know how to use them to your advantage. But absolutely, they're there. We work with a lot of people in debt. So, we wind up doing bankruptcy, some collection work, defending collection work, that is.
But what I'm trying to say is that this is what you do. You know the foreclosure
absolutely
area.
And, it's not just foreclosure. So, I also deal with property owners. So you're a property owner out there and you're having trouble with code compliance department in your city, and they're bringing you up on fines. Like, I got a client that came in right now. They've got $192,000 fine that accrued daily from a violation from the previous owner that wasn't disclosed at closing. I'm now working with the city to get that fine reduced to a realistic number. And these people did a lot of work with the property. But these are the type of things. I work with property owners to get their properties rezoned. I'm not scared of the city commission. I've been to my share of city commission meetings.
Listen, I'm sure they all know you by now.
Yeah, they do. They don't always like me, but they know.
I know about your reputation.
The city attorneys the city attorneys like me because I'm easy to work with, as long as I get what I want.
I think it's respect. So tell people, there's people out there that are getting ready or been avoiding the foreclosure, the letters that come in the mail. Tell everybody what they're in store for.
All right, so those are the clients that we call the ostriches. Right, they stick their heads in the sand. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to know about it. And it really depends when you come in. Like the best thing if you're trying to fix your issues with your loan, You come in as soon as you miss that first payment. That's the best time for us to be able to help you, even before you miss that first payment. But let's say you didn't. Now that process server knocks on your door. You got 20 days to file a response. If you don't file a response, the court enters what's called the default. It says that you cannot enter anything else in this case. You're done. You had your opportunity. You missed it. The bank pretty much gets to do whatever it wants at this point within the bounds of the law. Now, I'm not saying that we can't have those defaults vacated, but it is getting harder and harder. I will
And
also
more
tell you,
expensive. Your legal fees become more
absolutely,
expensive.
my fees go up. If I've got to put emergency work on your case, you're paying me emergency fees. I will tell you that, as the foreclosure backlog is reduced, and the backlog has been greatly reduced, the judges in Palm Beach County and the judges in Broward County and the judges in Miami-Dade County have basically put all their foreclosures on a death march to trial. And that can be a really scary prospect if you're going on your own. Now, for me, it brings a resolution of the case a little bit faster, positive, negative, or neutral. So we know what's going to happen. We know what we have to do to push these. We know how to keep it out of trial, and we know how to get it to trial if we want to get it there. But what's going to happen is you're not going to see the situation like we were seeing back in 2009, where files just languished and things just went completely unresolved. It's not happening anymore. They're keeping a much tighter watch on their dockets in Broward and Palm Beach County. They're setting cases for case management conferences. They're making the attorneys come back to court. And basically, there's this great episode of The Simpsons. I love that show where Homer borrows money from Fat Tony to run his wife's pretzel business, right? And he hasn't paid him back. And Tony meets with him. And he says, my wife has been very insistent on the issue of the pretzel money. When I leave the house, she says, Tony, where is my pretzel money? What are you doing to get me my pretzel money? How are you going to get me my pretzel money? When can I expect my pretzel money? Well, this is kind of like the conversations we've been having with judges lately in court. Is this case ready? Is this at issue? Are we ready for trial? Why not? What can we do to get it there? All right, you're going to come back in 30 days and you're going to tell me that we're ready for trial. Like, I don't want to compare the judges to the mafia because we really do.
To pretzels.
Or pretzels, maybe. No, it's the attorneys at the pretzels. We're the ones who twisting everything
Right,
around.
that's exactly it.
But, the judges are quite insistent at this point, and they want to know, let's get this resolved. I'm not willing to let it languish. If we're working on a loan modification, great. We'll set the trial date a little bit farther out. We'll set you out for 90 or 120 days. We'll work with you on extending sales. But you got to get these things moving one way or another. You can't just sit back and ignore it anymore. I have people that came into me whose cases have been pending for 5 years that didn't do anything. The bank never even made a motion for default. I'm like, you have no idea how much you lucked out here. 4 years, you've been like literally dancing on a razor's edge. Now,
Isn't that past the statute of limitations?
No, because the case is already filed. It's not when it's done, it's when it's filed. I can't tell you how many people that I've represented for 5 years. They're like, hey, we're past the 5-year mark. I'm like, right, but the case was filed in 2009. That's the operative point. It's not when you finish it, it's when you start it.
Right.
Another thing I want to talk about really briefly. What if you're an older person, your income's gone down, you're not able to keep up the mortgage on your house, and you don't want to move? One thing I had a client bring up to me today, we've been working with Department of Housing and Urban Development under the HARP program, Home Affordability Refinance Program, where they're actually taking these seniors, putting them into reverse mortgages so that they don't have to make mortgage payments, or if they do, they're making interest-only payments, really dropping down the bills, really helping them clear up their living situations. And it really, I have to say, it's one of those things that can be a great help to people. So if you or your parents are out there and you're facing this problem, don't wait until you go into default, especially if there's some equity in the house. Contact us. We'll work with you. We'll work with the federal government.
It's a great option
to get you into these reverse mortgages so you can save that house and preserve equity in it. If you are an older person that's earning income, which I got a lot of them now. I had a 77 woman with a full-time job today. She has no intention of quitting. She's healthy as a horse, but she can't afford to bring in what she was bringing in before. And she's like, I want to keep the house. I've got some equity in it. I don't want to fall behind on the mortgage, but the bills are just getting too high. And we're working with HARP. We're working with the federal government to get her into a reverse mortgage so that
and you're
she
basically
can keep her
using
house.
your equity to stay in the house.
Using either your equity to stay
so
in the
you don't
house.
pass it to your kids.
Right. You get to pass it to your kids. And, normally in a reverse mortgage, the interest that would otherwise accrue on your payments gets added to your balance. Well, what this new program is, that it's actually a new one. I'd never seen it before in my experience in reverse mortgages, where the reverse mortgagor is basically taking out an interest-only loan. They're paying the interest that becomes due every month, so that if they borrowed $250,000, it doesn't go up by the interest every month. It stays at $250,000 because they pay the interest.
Hey, we got to go to break. Give them all your information, your phone number, your website.
All right, you can give us a call, set up a free consultation, 954-596-0669. Check us out on the web. We'll give you a little more information, www.bilulaw.com. We like our people to come in, educated on the process. We love it when we have a client comes in with intelligent questions. Don't believe what you read on the blogs. Believe what you read on our website.
Believe what you hear from Gil.
And then follow me on Twitter at GBilu. I'm a lot of fun. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I try to be as available as I can.
Hey, Gil's with us every month. Hey, listen, if you have a friend, a family member, don't keep this information you've learned today to yourself. Pass it on. Bilu and Bilu. Call them tomorrow morning. Don't wait.
Call them today.
Call them now.
Exactly. You don't have to wait till
I'm
tomorrow
not the only
morning.
one in the office. The
candle's still going.
No, my
It's always
receptionist's there
burning.
at
The
least for
candle's
another
always
hour.
burning.
Okay.
She'll call you up. You'll call up. She'll get you set up for an appointment to come in and meet with one of us this week.
Thanks, Gil.
All
Thanks,
right. Thank
Gil.
you, guys.
We'll be back with more Slife.
Yes, we will. Keith Myers. We'll be right back.
At the law firm of Bilu and Bilu, we can help you if you are facing foreclosure. Don't lose your home due to foreclosures by the bank or mortgage